It is Tuesday, October 11th. This is Rose Kaz, and we are doing weekly small talks with different lady bosses all around the world. This week, leading up to our big anniversary on October 19th. And so I'm thrilled to connect you with Miss Future Kane. Future is the CEO of Future of SEL. And SEL, if you aren't familiar, stands for Social Emotional Leadership. And she is an expert at those things. So I'm really excited to lean into this conversation about elevating women, particularly as it comes to roles of leadership around our impact, right? Our social impact, emotional leadership. I've been a little teary today, emotional, perhaps a little bit. I'm a big fan of the ugly cry, publicly, privately. You do what you do with your emotions. I'm not going to be the boss of that. But most certainly, Future, I'm thrilled to hear about how you elevate not just yourself, your team, but the work you do in the world as it pertains to reaching across the aisle and supporting women. So, welcome to the chat, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me today. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. So tell us a little bit about where you are in the world, and what has brought you to do the work that you're doing around, SEL.
Okay. I am situated in the Midwest in Wisconsin, not that far from Chicago. I wasn't always here. I was born and raised on the East Coast. So that culture of my flavor of what I bring in everything I do is very much East Coast. And what brought me to do this is a journey with myself, of when I said, okay, Future, you have to look at where you are currently, because I was in a deep, dark state of diagnosed depression and anxiety. And in going through that storm that I feel I was needing, it showed me of who can I turn into, who could I be, who can I help. And then that's what got me on the path of saying, okay, you can't help build bridges if you aren't built for yourself first in your own wellness and in your own social emotional intelligence about who you are and the things that you value and the purpose that you have.
Amen to that. Preach for sure. And actually, if you don't mind, can you help us sort of unpack
Mm.
social emotionality period, and then of course, as you mentioned, you gotta be good with that on yourself if you're going to lead anybody else in that. So I imagine you have a deep understanding of what exactly social emotionality is, if I'm saying that correctly.
Yes. Okay. So I say you could look at it like a wheel or even a pyramid that's stacked on top of each other, kind of similar to Maslow's hierarchy. Of
Mm,
the base foundation is your own self-awareness. And what I like to tell people is your self-awareness is a two-sided coin. And people will say, well, Future, why is it a two-sided coin? It's two-sided coin because what your values, your beliefs, that is one side of the coin of how you are showing up and what you're embodying. Another side is also the other side of how people are perceiving you. So what you're projecting out, you may think one thing, but people might also see something else. Two
mm,
is your relationships. Do you have positive relationships with people? That is super important too. Decision making. We've seen the world in the past 2.5 years that a lot of us are pointing fingers at. That probably wasn't
mm,
such a good decision. But if you aren't aware of yourself and how you're showing up, that's important to know too. It's
mm.
also social awareness for everyone, because once you have the self awareness, once you have those relationships, once you have good decision making, then all of those pieces come together to say, I care about the social awareness of all, to then help you be on a path to even want to build, want to elevate,
Mm.
want to support, and want to amplify. So it's all those different pieces that come together to build this beautiful heart of sharing joy with the universe.
So that is like that's not a short answer because it has to be a dynamic answer, right? But also it occurs to me that in a word it's consciousness, which like you can't just like maybe we wake up with, but then we go to sleep at a certain point and then have to re-wake up, right? And so as that pertains to elevating, oneself and then, the community and the larger world, I mean, you really can't but it's such a strange euphemism to use, but it's what keeps coming to mind. You can't put lead a horse to water for oneself and for the group, right? And so, how when you're probably working with individual clients, but when you look at, as you mentioned, the last 2.5 years, which was indicative of larger, lengthier problems that we've had as a culture, as a world, right? Um, how does one continue to stay in the game of elevating when we keep seeing these sort of like, what do they say, the dumpster show, the dumpster fire train wreck shit show, right? Like, because it's a mindset around continuing to show up for ourselves and for each other. So what are some tactics that you might offer your clients, yourself? I'm sure you use some of those tools as well.
Okay, so I'm people will quote me often, and one thing that I say is sit with yourself. We have
Mm,
to take time and moments of silence truly to sit with ourselves, to say, how did I show up? Not only for myself, but how did I show up for people on any given day? The
mm,
next is link out to link into you. There's too many people that are linked into all this social media. And I'm not saying that social media is not a good thing, because I have many blessings because of social media. And it helps to amplify, it helps to build, it helps to connect. While also, you can't, I would suggest to anybody, do not stay on social media for long bouts of time. Even give yourself a detox, maybe for a couple hours during the day set,
mm,
or for a week, or for a day, or for the weekend, because we're constantly getting streams, which impact what you just said earlier, Rose, are conscious. And
mhm,
then what you start to see, sometimes people start to be. So, what are you feeding yourself in your own diet for your mind, for your spirit, for your heart, for your physical being is super, super important. So, we have to start with
mhm,
self first. In those moments, is where I go with people first.
mhm. Yeah, I think it's I remember this, some beauty company I saw in the mall as, like, a teenager about like you have to marry yourself before you marry anyone else. And that stuck with me. Listen, I'm not the marrying type. I've never been married. I probably won't get married. But what I loved about that is that like it's like you got to water this plant, right? Like if you're gonna try and go out there and spray the hose, like what are you doing if you haven't tended to yourself? Which is more timely than we can get into in this chat for me personally today. But I just appreciate you bringing this to light. Our friend Jen Buck, who is mutually connected us, who was supposed to be on this call. Shout out to Jen. We love you, appreciate you. And she was on this call. We were just having another little tech snafu, which God bless the internet, but sometimes it's a little bumpy space. But the reason I bring up Jen is because I've seen Jen consistently show up in these iterative spaces like Clubhouse, like different social media places, similar to what we're building on the Backstage Pass, like a new way to use social media that can maybe not be extractive or maybe not be as I don't want to say compelling. I mean, social media can be compelling, but essentially that we can have moments that are inspiring and elevating together versus things that often leave us feeling like, oh, I had to get my hit of dopamine from my doom scroll, but really it actually made me feel like shit, right? And so I just like that you're giving parameters to interacting with the world where we know it feels good sometimes, but it doesn't always really leave the best taste in the mouth. And so I'm just, as we kind of get wrapping up here, I think a little bit about how we as female leaders, I see you as a CEO, I see you as somebody with the name Future, makes me think of hopeful things, right? And so I just wonder, Future, how you are activating some of these tools and these intentions, not just like in this moment, but what you plan for your company, for your family, maybe for your circle, concentric circles in Wisconsin and beyond. Because I as a hopeful woman as well think that it's women like you and I who are pushing progress forward. And I'm curious what kind of progress you're working on at the moment.
Okay. It's funny that you mentioned hope, because we'll have to talk after. That is actually my middle name. So, and
Oh,
there's a huge story. There's a huge story
beautiful.
that, so
I
I
bet.
am very centered in hope, and it is what helps me to get up every day. It's literally what helps me to get up. And I think once you lose hope, you start to lose a little piece of your own soul.
Mhm.
So, a couple things that I do is, we're talking about bosses. I try to pour in as much as I can to the 2 children that I do have, because as much as I'm powered up, I want them to be powered up in living well and leading well and being very conscious, so that they too could bring joy and build bridges for generations to come.
Mm,
So that is first.
mm,
I am pretty active in my community. So a lot of the stuff that I do on social media is probably 10% of what I am trying to do behind the scenes in
Mm,
where I live and the interactions that I have off of social media. So I think it's important to plant seeds. And you said earlier that we are plants and we need sunlight, we need water, we need other people to share nice tidbits with us so that we can blossom and bloom and spread our trees and the flowers all over. So I am very much about how can I serve you? How can I help to empower, to build, to create, to see the chasms and the gaps that we have, but then also
mm,
say this is a gap that very much is not getting tended to, and how can we build so that we can recreate something so that all can blossom as trees in this soil that we have cultivated together. So I am doing a lot of things behind the scenes and with different organizations who choose to be proactive and preventative in regards to leadership, in regards to workplace and employee wellness, because that is what matters. You can't produce if the people inside the organizations aren't living or leading well. And those are facts, especially with us going through a stress epidemic and a mental health crisis right
mm,
now.
mm. So well said, and I applaud you for the work you're doing, and I think it's so important and integral that we don't just, you know, post the hashtag, put the bumper
Right.
sticker on, or wear the T-shirt. Because sure, okay, that's great step one. But then, what are the things that we do actually, right? What's the day to day? What are the structures? If we are our own business people, if we're working in our own business, how are we structuring our organization? If we're working in other businesses, what are we supporting by working for them? And for that matter, when we're purchasing, right, taking it to the next level, who we're purchasing from, where we're spending our money. Women are 83% of the purchasing power in this country, right? And
Mhm.
that is that listen, I'm not a math major, but that is more than half, y'all. And that is a
Right.
lot of do re mi floating around the economy by us putting it into saying, yes, you may have my money. Yes, I will support this. And so
Mhm.
I appreciate you pointing to some of the things that you do at large, and not that they're not at large behind the scenes, but maybe they aren't as visible to, somebody who's checking you out on social, right? Because it ultimately none of that shit really matters unless you're really what you're doing in that the day to day. Sorry to call it like it is, right? But
Nope.
I feel you, Miss Future, hope to be a straight talker, but with such kind and emotional bandwidth. It's really a joy to speak with you and to connect with you, albeit in a short, much smaller than the small chat was intended to be, but still really grateful that we could have this time to connect. I'm definitely going to be thrilled to follow up with you afterwards. I know you have a busy schedule, so want to keep the time calling it at 2:30. But as we wrap, is there anything else that you want to share that we didn't get to just yet in this quick
Mhm.
down and dirty chat?
I think I'm going to say what I always say to people, and that is stay healthy, be mindful, and stay positive, because we are in the middle of a mental marathon. And how you show up mentally and the reels that you keep playing in your mind matters most. So
Mm,
give yourself grace. Don't forget to celebrate every day something that is a glow for yourself, and also center in an attitude of gratitude.
mm. Yes, ma'am. I will take that memo for me, and I hope anybody who's watching this either live or following up on the recording lets has that land for them as well. So thank you so much, Future. So glad to connect with you. Look forward to connecting with you. Jen Buck, again, shout out. She's always like drawing the lines to incredible, incredible people. So thank you, Jen, and thank you, Future,
Thanks,
for your
Jen.
time. Appreciate you, and thank you for handling our little tech hiccup this morning. Cool. All right, Future, make it a beautiful day, and I'll catch you around.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye.
Cheers. Take care. All right, everyone. Well, this is our second small talk of the week leading up to our big party, our celebration. And as you heard, ooh, turkey's done. As you heard Miss Future say, keeping the grace for ourselves and celebrating the small wins, right? The small victories. So we have a small victory on our hands on the Backstage Pass. We have made it a year as a startup here at 1871, the Tech Hub in Chicago, beginning a new cohort for women in tech. Also, concurrently doing a cohort in North Carolina for the creative economy. So I've got my hands full as a femme founder, but I want to make sure that we are celebrating our victories. And so I'm inviting you, dear listener, whether live here, I see some of you are tuning in, or catching it on the replay. We have a big party on October 19th. It's 8 p.m. on that Wednesday night. It is a digital dance party. So make sure that you come through, get your boogie on. There will be a link in the bio for you to sign up. You can always come to our main website, ladybossinternational.club, check out what we're up to and get involved in the event there, or just send us an email the old fashioned way. Say hi, LBI. That's say hi, L like lady, B like boss, I like international at gmail.com. All right. Well, great little chat with Miss Future Hope. I will be thrilled to find Jen Buck again soon and hopefully get her into this restream so that we can share all the work she does in the world as well. So that's all that I've got from my corner of the world at the moment. I hope you have a wonderful day. Ciao for now.